Welcome back to another episode of Simplyrobotix, the podcast. I'm your host, Monique, and this is another episode that is being sponsored by Autodesk. This week, I'm joined by Ashleigh Hairston to talk about all things voice acting, writing, and even more. And what's so beautiful about this episode is that Ashleigh shares her journey. Her journey was not linear. She had to make a lot of pivots, and she's finally coming to a place where she's learning how to navigate and prioritize self-care. So if you're a person who, is trying to transition into the animation industry or already in the industry, but has a few different passions and interests, you're definitely going to want to check out the rest of this episode. Stay tuned. Welcome, Ashleigh. Thank you for joining me this morning on your Saturday. I really appreciate it. Let's start off with a little bit of where you're from, because we're going to get into it in like 2 seconds, but I saw that you went to college on the East Coast. So for some reason, I was like, oh, she's from the East Coast. So learning that you weren't. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yes, I am from the other Washington. I went from Washington to Washington. I'm from Seattle. It's actually Bellevue, Washington, which is like 10 minutes outside of Seattle. That is where I'm from originally, and grew up there my whole life. And then, went to school in Washington, D.C. for college at Howard University. And I lived there for almost 9 years before moving to Los Angeles. So I've only lived in big tourist cities.
Yeah. How was it growing up in Seattle? And
oh my gosh,
were you into the arts, while you were there?
So I grew up in Bellevue. It's an interesting story. Well, not really that interesting. It's probably many people's stories, but so my dad is a pastor, and he has a church. Our church that I grew up in is in the south end of Seattle, Washington, and we growing up, they lived in Seattle before my sister and I were born. For whatever reason, they decided to move to Bellevue, Washington. So that's where my sister and I grew up going to school, which is Bellevue is a predominantly white neighborhood city. It is not a lot of diversity at all. And so my sister and I ended up going to predominantly white schools our whole life, like elementary, middle, high school. I never had a Black teacher growing up. That's that was just the reality. I think I had one Black substitute teacher one day. His name was Mr. Cosby, and he told us he was related to Bill Cosby. Don't know if that's true. He probably just uses that, as a thing, but he did kind of look like him, but yeah, so that was our experience on one side growing up during the day. During the night and the weekends and every other, moment of our lives was spent at church in Seattle in the South End, which was all Black. And our church was all Black, and my family was all Black. And my uncle's a pastor. He had a church in Seattle also. All of our family friends were all Black. So it was this, interesting balance where I would go to school and have all my white friends, and then, at church and with my family, like it was very Black. So going to Howard, my sister went there first, and I was like, oh my God, I went to visit her when I was in high school for homecoming. And I was like, oh my
Howard
God,
homecoming.
I have to go to school here. I was like, oh my God, I had never seen that many Black people in one area at one time. Like it was a culture shock. But it was like, I was like, I have to go to this school. Like this is, I feel like I'd been traumatized growing up, being the only in all my classes and, my social circles, with friends and stuff, and going over to my friends' houses, and just, I had to be fully enveloped in the Black experience. So that's why I went to Howard. But yeah, it was amazing. Had all the Black teachers at Howard. Yeah.
And was there an expectation that you'd also, move forward with your life in the church? Like, were your parents surprised or shocked that you weren't going to kind of continue that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it's my sister and I, and then our two older brothers who are 12 and 14 years older than me. And then we have a sister who is, I think she's like 60. So there's a large range between all of us. The older siblings are all very much involved in church. Like my brother plays the organ, my other brother plays the drums, my other sister sings. Time happened in between our generation and theirs. And like my sister was like, I have to get out. I have to, go and pursue my own life, And so she did that first. And then I went to go visit and I was like, oh my God, I want to be an actor. Like, this is what, I wanted to do. I started doing like plays and stuff in church. Like that's where I guess technically got my start in like church plays. Being the pastor's daughter, I had to be in all of them and often like the lead. But I also just loved it, so much. And so I was like, oh my God, I want to be an actor. And my parents were very supportive of like us, my sister and I, like pursuing our dreams and our goals.
That's
for
so
whatever
great.
reason. Yeah. My brothers are always like, y'all were raised different than us. Like we had to stay at church. We had to like, be invested and continue the legacy or whatever, but my sister and I were like, peace. But no, we're still very much, close with the family and church and all that.
Of
but
course.
Yeah.
So what did you major in at Howard?
Theater arts. With a specialty in acting, because you could do like musical theater, theater administration, but mine was acting.
And you said you stayed in like the DC DMV area for like 9 years.
Yeah.
What was it that made you say I have to go to California?
Oh yeah, so I always wanted to live in New York. That was like my dream.
So I'm like,
oh yeah. Oh my gosh, that was my dream. And I don't know why that was my dream so early on, like, because I'd never been there. I'd never, even thought to go and visit New York City. My first time going to New York was when I went to go visit my sister at Howard. We drove up for a day and I was like, it's everything I always imagined.
Love that.
I wanted to go to New York and do theater. And like do actual Broadway. And once I got to Howard, like I had friends who were from New York and I would go and visit. And I had one of my best friends went to Long Island University in Brooklyn. And so I would like go and visit all the time and take the Chinatown bus for like $20 and be there in 3 hours. It was great. But then I tried to move to New York twice and it didn't work. It was just so difficult and expensive. And we tried for 2 summers to move to New York and like had our sights set on like, living the dream. And I wanted to do like theater and acting and stuff. And it just didn't work out. And then meanwhile, I was in DC after I graduated. I got a job at Carlin Davis Casting in Falls Church, Virginia. I had kind of lived all over by that point. I lived, in DC. I lived in Silver Spring, Maryland. I lived in Hyattsville for a little bit. And then I ended up in H Street area in DC. But yeah, I would drive to Falls Church to do casting. And then I did that for a while, like basically, casting movies and promotional, videos and stuff and like industrials. That was big, back then. I'm sure they are still now, but I was like a casting assistant and then I started doing that. Then I started working at a restaurant called Matchbox in Washington, D.C. They have the best pizza. And I just got caught up in doing that. Like, as a server. Then I became a bartender, and then I was just making tons of money and like spending it immediately in the, restaurant life. You just like, it's a wild time. But I did that for a couple years, and then I was like, what am I doing? The plan was to move to New York. That didn't work. What am I going to, what's going to happen now? I've like now spent 2 years kind of just figuring things out and not actually doing the thing that I wanted to do, which was acting. I was like, I would go up to New York, sometimes to like do background work. And then I was like doing like different acting jobs, like short films and stuff like that. But I wasn't like fully enveloped in acting. And I was like, I have to do something, like make a move, what's it going to be? And so after I tried to move to New York twice, didn't work out. I ended up reaching out to a friend who lived here in Los Angeles. And I was like, hey, by chance, are you, what's your situation looking like? Are you looking for a roommate? I'm thinking about moving to New York. And she was like, actually, I am. She was like, come on, let's look for places. And we started looking for places on Craigslist and found a place and got approved immediately. And I was like putting boxes together the next week, like had a plan. I had saved up, I'd met my savings goal for moving, and then, moved to LA. So easy. Just like the transition was seamless. It was crazy.
Yeah,
I don't think I
can relate to that.
To go to New York. Yeah.
I can relate. When I was working my first industry job, it was in Connecticut, and I was commuting from Queens to Connecticut, which, I'm sorry to bore you frequent listeners, it's like like a 3-hour commute each way I was doing. And I was just trying to move like to the Bronx or to Westchester just to shorten my commute, even like by half. Yeah. And it just kept falling through. Had coworkers and friends who were willing to move with me, and then we had different budgets and then different neighborhoods. And I was like, it was just like, clearly this is not supposed to happen.
Exactly. Yes.
And then I haven't shared this on social media and stuff like that, but people eventually piece things together. But I have moved out of New York, and that was just so easy. Yes. And I was like, I really wanted to stay in New York, but I just couldn't make it happening with moving out of my childhood home. Right. So sometimes it's like that, like life is saying you have to pivot in this way you didn't intend. Yeah. And I feel like it's doing very well for me so far. Yes, so exactly. I'm happy for both of us.
I know. I'm happy for you. Congratulations. Thank you. I feel like the universe, will move you when it is time. You can try. And it's good to try like that. I think you should try, different things, but like ultimately you'll end up where you're supposed to be. And it just happens that way. It's great. Yeah.
So can you tell me a little bit about how you transition now from like acting, getting into voice acting? Yeah. Because I shouldn't say I don't think that's difficult. I don't know what it takes. So I'm very interested in how, because you think of like celebrities, and it's like celebrities always get like voice acting gigs. But for a person that's on their way to being a celebrity, how do you make that transition?
By accident. Just kidding. No, I think it's another one of those things. I think it speaks to just what is supposed to be, what is for you will be for you specifically. I can't really say, there's so many different ways to go about it, and I can't speak to every way. And I'm not saying this is the way, but this is the way it worked for me. Is that I, immediately, as soon as I moved to Los Angeles, I got into improv. I ended up moving. My apartment just so happened to be literally blocks away from IO West Theater in Hollywood, which is an improv theater that was founded in Chicago. And they have a location, or used to before the pandemic, have a location right in Hollywood. So I ended up moving there 2 blocks away. My best friend, they had drove down from Seattle with me, and we were just literally wandering the street on our, like, the first official day there. We were wandering, exploring Hollywood, and we came across the theater, IO West, and she was like, oh my God, improv, comedy, you should do that. And I was like, whoa, don't know what any of that is, but okay. So we like went inside just exploring and being nosy. And they were doing a intro to improv class, like on the stage. And so we went and got information about, improv classes and stuff like that. And the teacher was like, oh, we have one. You could come tomorrow. And my best friend was like, okay, I'm going to go and we'll come back. I'm going to go get my nails done and you take the class. And I was like, okay. And so I was like, all right. So then we did that. I took the class, came back. I was like, that was great. That was amazing. Like, what have I been doing my whole life? Because my major, was theater, dramatic arts. I had spent so much time, like, in my classes at Howard, like, rolling around on the floor and wailing and calling upon the ancestors. And, like, it was very dramatic, training, which was beautiful. And I'm so grateful for that experience. I got on that improv comedy. I was turning into characters. I was, like, hunched over. I was like a lot of also wailing and rolling around on the floor, but in a comedic way. And I was like, this is where I'm supposed to be. I was like, this is what should have been doing, for a very long time. I'm a silly person. I am weird. Like, I should be doing comedy and improv and stuff. And she was like, I know. I've known you since 6th grade. This is totally you. So I started doing improv, immediately started taking classes, improv comedy classes, immediately got involved with an internship, which paid for my classes. So
nice.
Then I started auditioning for the teams there. So I just like fully enveloped myself at that theater. I was taking classes. I was performing. I was a cocktail waitress there. I was interning. I was there like 7 days a week, basically. And that just built up my, funny bone, basically, Fast forward, I started doing character showcases. So I don't know if you remember, there was one year where they were like looking for a Black woman to host SNL. I mean, to be on SNL. They were like, It's been 400 years since we've had a Black woman on the show, and we're looking for a new Black woman to join the cast. And so I randomly got thrown into that lineup to do like to do a showcase of characters. And that was like amazing to do that. That was like, oh my God, I'm auditioning for SNL. I would later find out that there were many of these showcases, and the showcases happen all the time. But this one was just a huge deal because they were looking specifically for a Black woman. I didn't move forward, to the like final round of showcases, but someone who was in the audience at that showcase saw my characters, and invited me to participate in a different showcase for NBC, which was basically like a boot camp. And they were putting together a show, and so I got put into that. It was paid. It was amazing. I ultimately didn't get cast in that show, but then I had this like bulk of characters that I was, learning and writing for myself. It was a very interesting experience because I had not written before. I was just doing improv, which is like made up on the spot, spontaneous. But I had to write characters for myself, and I didn't know how to do that. So the boot camp was designed to sort of teach us how to do that, and then perform it for NBC executives and stuff. This is a long story, but hopefully it'll all continue. Okay, great. So yeah, I learned like in that showcase, I didn't even know how to write a blackout sketch. Like, what is a blackout sketch? I had no idea. So I learned in that process. So ultimately didn't get cast for the show on that one, but took with me all of this experience about learning to write for yourself and writing different kinds of sketches and what, they all mean and all of that, and what my strengths are as a performer, and then I ended up auditioning for the CBS Diversity Showcase like a couple years later. which is a big showcase here in Los Angeles. That is like a 4-month long process of rehearsals. And then it ends in a week or 2 weeks, sometimes long showcase that you put on for agents, managers, casting directors, the general public, anyone, producers can go. And a lot of people get, cast and big things after that. And they also offer development deals to some of the talent. Kate McKinnon is like a big name that they, throw out there.
Okay.
Also, Ego Wodum, she's a alumni of the showcase as well. Many people. So I got to do that showcase. That was a huge deal because thousands of people auditioned for it. My first time auditioning, I didn't get cast. But I had this bulk of characters, stable of characters that were now my go-to characters.
Nice.
I didn't get cast. Meanwhile, I'm performing at IO West. Meanwhile, I switch over to UCB Theater, which is, the Upright Citizens Brigade Theatre. And that theater is very well known. They have one in New York as well, one in LA. And tons of people come out of that, theater from, performing there on that stage. And so at the same time, I'm doing that, taking classes, improv, also getting the diversity scholarship. You got to know how to navigate the biz, make things easy for you. So I got a diversity scholarship there, was able to take all my classes, which was great and a blessing because I was broke. Doing those classes, I took writing classes there and improv classes. Then I auditioned, got on a main stage sketch team, which is called their Maude teams. That allowed me to perform every month on stage. Meanwhile, I'm building up a network of friends and people who are also writing and also performing, and this will matter in a second. I was backstage at a show one day, and there was someone there a friend of mine, Haley Mancini. She was one of my sketch team directors. And she, later on, actually, I introduced myself to her, and she was like, "Oh my God, you have such a great voice. I'm a writer on the Powerpuff Girls. You should audition." And I was like, "Oh, okay." I never thought about doing voiceover. And I've always hated my voice. I've always gotten critiqued by my voice from many different people, just whether it's you sound like a little kid or you sound like a white girl. Why do you talk like that? Just everything I've gotten, So why do you sound so proper? Why do you pronounce things the way you do? Just everything, So that I grew to dislike my voice. And she was like, "Oh my God, your voice is amazing. You should do voiceover." I was like, okay. So she sent me on audition. I didn't get it, but I was like, I should look into this voiceover thing some more. And so then I signed up for a voiceover class, an intro to animation class. And this is the longest story ever. Oh my gosh. But it all makes sense. It all adds up.
Keep going.
So sorry it's so long, but it's 10 years worth. That's the bottom line, I guess, of this entire story, is that it takes a long time and you have to just keep going and get involved and meet people. So I took this class. The teacher was Colette Sunderman, who cast everything. And this will come in later as well. Took her class. She was amazing. I was like, I love this. I had been building up my stable of characters. So during the class, we had, when we'd go up, I already had go-to voices to do, and so now Haley has sent me this audition. I've taken this voiceover class. My manager at the time was like, "Oh, let me start submitting you to voiceover agencies so we can get you some real voiceover auditions." And I was like, okay, I feel good about this. I took another voiceover class, intro to commercial acting for voiceover. And the teacher there, he started sending me voiceover auditions as well, because he was like, "You have a great voice. You should do voiceovers. You should do this." I was like, okay. And he was also an agent as well, so that worked out. So he started sending me voiceovers as well, voiceover auditions. I get this audition for a Disney pilot. I end up getting a call back for it. Meanwhile, at the same time, my manager had been submitting me to different agencies. They all told me no because I didn't have any credits, and they all said that I had a voice, already that they had in their roster. Like my voice already sounded similar, so they were denying me. But then I get this call back for a Disney show, and now suddenly they all were like, "Oh yeah, we'll take a look. We'll take a listen." Yeah, so I ended up getting a voiceover agent after that. And interestingly enough, where I currently was already at for commercials at Osbrink Agency. So I just joined them for voiceover as well. Anyways, first audition I got was for Craig of the Creek. Second audition I got was for Marvel's Avengers, Black Panther's Quest.
Yeah.
And I booked them both.
How did you react? Like, were you crying? Were you like, finally? Like,
yeah, it was like, this has been such a weird, long-term twist, like in the plot, the ultimate plot twist. How did I get this? This is crazy. Also because for Black Panther's Quest, the audition was for Bask, the Queen of Wakanda. And then the movie Black Panther was coming out in a year. And I was like, I'm a part of the Black Panther franchise.
Yes.
What is happening? It was crazy to me. I also had to do a Wakandan accent, which, by the way, don't know what I was doing. I was just making up, whatever. I was like, I feel like it sounds, just do a royal accent. My audition technique, I was in my closet, my coat closet on the floor, recording my auditions on the phone because that's all I had. I was broke. And literally voice memo on the floor in the closet amongst my coats and towels with the flashlight on so I could see the script that I had taped to my door. I have a picture of my door by the end of the time I moved out, covered in auditions, my little space. But that's how it started. That was the beginning of transitioning from, it was improv to sketch to writing characters for myself to performing characters that I developed myself, to people seeing me on stage performing these characters and thinking of me for auditions and sending them to me, getting an agent after many no's, and then finally a yes. And then that's literally how it happened.
I want to just touch on something you said about people thinking of you, because that's something I say so much in terms of networking and things of that. It's not solely who you know, but who knows you. And a lot of people in the animation industry, regardless of what capacity that you're involved in, can be very shy and hesitant.
Yes.
And it's no,
absolutely.
You have to know you exist. So when there's this opportunity, you're the person they think of.
Exactly.
And I'm just so happy that you said that, because I try with, the upcoming generation, even some of my peers, people have to know you exist. So something so simple that I do in a not nagging way is just engaging with people on social media. People cry no one likes my stuff, no one retweets whatever, but do you just comment on something that's going to start getting on their radar. They're like, oh, this person always, congratulates my work, or just even a hand clap emoji or a trophy or something, you're going to start to get on people's radar, and they're going to be like, let me just check this person out, because they're always in my comments and notifications or something, So even though...
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, you go.
Oh, yeah. I was just saying, even though I'm a person that's pretty introverted, I give myself small challenges. So, pre-COVID, when I was really out and doing more going to events and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
I'd be like, I just need to talk to 2 people and then I don't have to speak anymore. Like, you know, I can just be in the room. And an easy way for me to kind of like work on some of the anxiety was just ask people to talk about themselves. That way I don't have to talk, you know, because people like talking about themselves, you know? So you might be surprised, like, oh, you have a podcast and this, that, and third. I was like, well, you know, it's like podcasting is on my terms. It's different from being like at a film festival and just, you know, constantly trying to push myself outside of my comfort zone and feel more, comfortable and at ease in these bigger spaces. But it's all about who knows you exist when an opportunity comes across them.
Yep, it's absolutely right. And like building that too, like, because I was an introvert. I was very also surprisingly shy. I was very weird and, you know, whatever, but I had to build that muscle to get confident on stage. Like that didn't happen immediately. I mean, I'm still working on that, you know, but that takes time. And so just building that, being as involved as possible and meeting people, supporting other people's shows, just showing up. Like you're saying, just like comment, people see you, people think of you. Even like to full transparency, I struggle to post currently on Instagram. And I can get into my introverted world and be like, I don't know how to say this. I don't want this to come off this way. Like, I don't know how this is going to be received. So I just won't post at all. And let me tell you, every time I push through that and post, like whatever it is, like, people message me after, just like immediately after, like, oh my God, I have this thing. You'd be great for it. Oh my God, like, oh, you doing this? Congratulations. Like, blah, blah, blah. I have this other thing going on. Are you free for blah, blah, blah? Like, it's like people forget, you know? And you just like, you have to put yourself out there. That's all it is, you know? And people will think of you. Yeah.
Yeah. And just to go back to Instagram just like, is not fun. I probably shouldn't, you know, make such a bold statement, but it's actually very true. And seeing some people like that are like, you could say influencers, you know, they have a lot of followers, that I enjoy them on social media, on Instagram. They're all just starting to talk about leaving the app altogether, or like, you know, turning more to like their own community networks that they're building through, you know, like paywalls or Patreon and stuff like that. Because of just like that same thing that you're saying, like, it's like you're overthinking and over processing and you're thinking so much about how you're going to be perceived. And it's like, I definitely want to go back to like 2012 Instagram where like people are posting stuff that's not so forced and like, you know, curated type of thing, you know? So it's such a job now. You're thinking about like how they're pushing everybody to become content creators, like transitions and angles and lightings and this.
So I'm like, I don't have time for all that.
And like, I actually don't want to. Like sometimes I just want to share this thing in this moment and not think like it needs typography, it needs filter, it needs whatever. Like
a message,
you know, and they're pushing. I get like, to,
just like a message, like I have to be, you know, saying something with every post. It's like I don't want to be saying something every time.
I don't want to. So completely feeling you on that. So also you are a woman that does a whole bunch of stuff. And I feel like I'm with you on that as well. I want to know I want to know first, how do you practice self-care with all that you do? We're going to get into all that you do, but how do you make time for yourself? And also, what does that look like for you?
Right. You know, I am working on it. So I I got into therapy last year. I think towards the I started in June actually. And I'd never really been done therapy before, other than like, oh my God, I'm losing my mind and I need to see somebody, you know, like wait till the very end, last minute to go. But no, I started in June going to therapy weekly, and that has been a complete life changer for me. It has been so amazing. Such an amazing experience. I've experienced so much growth. Just having a non-biased, like, person that I don't know, who doesn't know me from Adam, like, to talk to, just about everything. I am doing a lot, and a lot of times I don't realize how much I'm doing because I'm doing it, like I'm in it, and I just feel like I have to do it, and I'm taking on a lot just to make sure that I'm, active and involved in whatever, because it feels like if I don't do that, then I'm doing nothing, which is not true. So going to therapy has given me tools to basically undo a lot of the thinking that that I had for myself and just life in general, approach it, all of that stuff. So once you can identify like certain things, you could start to change them. I recommend therapy for everybody. It's so great. So that is like one piece of like the foundation, I guess, of like my learning and helping to build, my own self-care regimen. Now, aside from that, oh gosh, a lot of my hours are spent sitting and writing now, especially with the pandemic. I don't know how other writers do it sitting for so long, but I gained 20 pounds during the pandemic. Thankfully that I had a job and was constantly writing. There was one point during the pandemic where I was writing on 3 shows at once. I had 3 jobs at one time, which was insane. Yeah. Too much. That was not great balance at all. And I saw the effects of it. Stress, eating out of control, because, I got to stay awake. So I should be munching to keep me awake in the night, First thing I do when I wake up in the morning, start writing, get my computer so I can get like 3 hours out of the way before work starts, of other writing. Just not going outside because I got to write. I have a deadline. I can't spend an hour working out, an hour, showering or whatever, and then getting dressed. Like, where's, how am I supposed to fit that time in when I have deadlines? I started with a workout app, which has been great. I fell off now because I've been moving and stuff. But for a minute, I was 25 weeks straight of workouts, which was amazing. Had to make that a priority. I had to move, had to get up, had to get a workout in during the day. Eating, also important. These are just the basics of self-care, but you kind of, sacrifice them for work. And you should not do that. You should make time for all of those things. Now that I'm in the position that I am now, where I can kind of be like, hey, I have this schedule, I'm learning that, guess what? I have the ability to say, I'm blocked out for this amount of hours a day, and I can use that time for whatever I want. And it could just be a workout, Yeah. It could be anything. It could be a nap. Love naps. A recharge, like anything. I'm learning is the short answer to what you were asking. How do I do it? Yeah. I am learning, and it's a constant, everyday challenge that I am trying to overcome, because self-care, I think it comes and goes. It goes along with your own experience and whatever you're, dealing with and navigating at the time. Life, it ebbs and flows. It goes up, it goes down, stressful, weeks. Then there's nothing sometimes, or it feels like you're like, I got to stock up energy for the next week. But it doesn't work like that. You try to stock up, and then it happens and you're like, I'm overwhelmed already again, So yeah, it's a constant challenge. I should also say spirituality. The mind is a powerful muscle, tool, machine. And learning your brain and how it functions and the things that it's telling you and how the messages that you're receiving, from your brain, I think that is also the most foundational form of self-care we have. Like, get in tune with your brain and your thoughts.
Yes.
Because those will direct your actions and your habits and your self, who you are ultimately. So spirituality has been, I lost that for a while because I was focused on everything else, and growing up pastor's daughter, it's like, I got that my whole life. I got it, whether I wanted it or not. Pounded into me, just like leaning into the religion, God, everything. I had to find that out for myself, and I had to establish that relationship with God and the universe, myself. And establishing that for myself and, for my life and how that shapes, how that informs, my actions and how I go about life, how I see myself, how I view myself. That has also been like huge in self-care for me. I hope that's not a confusing answer.
No.
I guess also, making time for friends and your own, time, whether it's a FaceTime or going out for tacos. You got to make time for that and treat yourself constantly.
Oh, yeah. I'm big on treating myself.
Yeah, treat yourself. You work hard. It's good.
I love it. I love treating myself. We've been talking about like how you do so many things, but the people may not know exactly what are all these things that you're doing. Okay. So can you, let's run down your job titles and all that sort of stuff.
Yes. Oh, okay. Funny you ask. Just kidding. No. One of my manifestations, one of my mantras, one of my self-affirmations, I say to myself, I'm a multi-hyphenate superstar.
Okay.
I started saying that and it happened. Or it's happening.
It's happening.
I like to think it's happening. Yeah.
Yes.
I guess I'm an actor, a writer, voice actor, now producer. That's it.
Writer?
Oh my God. Thank you.
No problem.
Yes.
Ashleigh does it all. Does and is doing it all. So, I mean, this was the interview part. I don't like to contain it. When the conversation's flowing and it's good and it's so organic, I don't like to contain it. We still have a second half of the show to get to.
Oh my gosh. Okay. How much time do we have? An hour?
As much time as you have.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay. But we're going to pivot to the second half now, which is just about some of your favorite animated movies and TV shows.
Oh,
so luckily, the first one that I have on here is The Lion King, and I've already had other people talk about it, so you don't have to explain what the movie is about. However, why is it one of your favorite films?
Oh gosh, I feel like it's probably the Encanto of my generation. You know, it was like the big movie of the time. That was the first movie that like I was like emotionally invested in as a child. You know, before I take that back. Land Before Time was the first animated movie that I was emotionally like got me. You know, like I remember crying during that movie. You know, that was a lot for kids, I feel like, to process, but so good. Lion King next. It was just the best like sing-along movie. Simba and Nala, they were like my favorite little characters. I knew all the words to all the songs. I loved Rafiki. I loved Scar. It was just such a masterpiece of storytelling, you know, that has continued for generations. Like it was like such a powerful, I guess, hitting me in that time, you know, when it came out, early 90s, I think. Also, I had a huge crush on Jonathan Taylor Thomas, who was the voice of Simba. Yeah. And I was like, oh my God, I love JTT.
It's so funny.
Yeah.
The next movie you had was My Neighbor Totoro, which I actually saw for the first time, I think this winter.
Oh my gosh, great.
Yeah.
Did you love it?
I think had I seen it as a child, I would have loved it. Like, you know, that was something that like I kind of missed out not seeing it earlier in my life. But I feel like it's something I would definitely want to introduce to like my offsprings if I have offsprings.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah. Such beautiful visual storytelling. So I've never been exposed to any of Hiro Miyazaki's films. I never been exposed to like any anime. I didn't know about that world growing up at all. When I started writing on Craig of the Creek, there were all these references being tossed around in the room, and I was like, I have no idea what you guys are talking about. And they were like, you have to watch this list. Jeff Trammell, who was the story editor at the time on Craig of the Creek, who basically gave me my writing career in animation, essentially. That's another story. I don't know if we'll get to that. But,
yeah, still trying to get him on here.
He's the best. He is truly an angel. He was like, you need to watch these films. Like, here's a list. Him and Tiffany Ford, who's the supervising director, art director on Craig. They were like, here's a list of films, you know, to watch that are incredible. You should watch them just for reference, you know, of all of these, of what we're doing, like the style and storytelling and the art and all of that stuff. I was like, okay. And so one holiday, I went home and I watched, I think, 8 films back to back to back. I watched Spirited Away, which I had never seen. I watched My Neighbor Totoro. I watched Ponyo. I watched Kiki's Delivery Service. I watched, yeah, so good.
I saw Kiki as a child, so I was very into like witchcraft, and my mom got concerned.
Right,
also being Christian, she was like, Sabrina, Charmed, Kiki.
No,
I'm noticing a pattern.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Howl's Moving Castle. All of these. What's the scariest one? The scary one. Do you know what I'm talking about?
For me, was it Nausicaa or something? Whatever that one is. That was for me. That was.
No, I always forget the dang name.
Oh, are you talking about, is it Grave of the Fireflies?
No, it's the one with, like, the floating. Oh, no, now I'm going to be upset. Oh, I always forget it. Dang it. Oh, well.
Well, do you know that they do Ghibli Fest every year where you can watch these films in theaters?
No.
Like, I don't know when they started it, but I've been going for probably like at least 4 or 5 years.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Wait,
And
where?
I've seen like where?
Like you can watch them?
It's in like select AMC theaters or in some other theaters. So Google Ghibli Fest and you'll see the calendar for the year. So,
what?
And you could even buy it that far in advance.
Now. Yeah.
Yeah, I go like I've seen Kiki.
Uh-huh.
It's really amazing to see it on the big screen because again, like we were kids or weren't aware when they were in select theaters at the time.
Yeah.
So seeing it on the big screen and just seeing like the artistry visually and hearing the music, it's really So I will see Kiki's Delivery Service and Spirited Away and Howl's Moving Castle every year in theaters. It's just like my thing.
Oh, I'm going to do that too. Thank you for that information. Yeah, so beautiful. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I missed out on all of this. With the imagination that I had growing up and have to this day, it's sad that I wasn't probably allowed to, like you're saying, like I wasn't allowed to watch any like monster witchcraft, like
your parents would not have.
Oh, absolutely not. So but I missed out on all of that, It's sad. Exposure is so important. But yeah, it was beautiful.
So we're going to move on to TV shows now. And you have Family Guy as being one of your favorite TV shows. Do you have a favorite moment from the show?
Oh, gosh.
Or episode?
Did I put Family Guy? I don't know why I put that.
Well, I was like, this is a first.
That's so funny. I don't. But I did love Stewie.
Yeah.
I put that as my favorite what?
Animated show? One of your favorite animated shows.
Time. Oh, okay. Let's see. My favorite animated shows. Wren and
I have two more.
Oh,
exactly. You sent them to me. So if you don't have much to say on, I will say I was also very into Family Guy up until they killed Brian.
Oh my
and
gosh.
then they brought Brian back because people were so upset about it. Hilarious. And I was like, y'all don't get to play with my feelings twice. Like,
that is so funny. Oh my gosh.
I stopped watching the show altogether. But yes, you also have Ren and Stimpy on this list.
Yeah, Ren and Stimpy.
Ren and Stimpy was a show I really liked as a child, and then like a switch went off still as a child, and I was like, something's off about this show. And then I got very scared of it. And, like my mom had no idea when did this happen. Yeah, I was just like I think it was one of those freeze frames when they zoom in a lot and it's like really gross, and I was like, I'm done here. This is enough. So yeah, why is it one of your favorites?
Because I'm a weirdo. I'm a sicko. I am a sicko. I like gross things. And my coworkers now hate it, but I am like the go-to. I think because I was so repressed as a child, was not allowed to talk about certain things, was not allowed to really make jokes about a lot of things. I was told, there's a time to joke and a time to be serious. So many times. And I was always in my head, when's the time to joke? When is that coming? But yeah, so I think just
and the last show that you shared with me was The Jetsons.
Oh, yeah. I'm old. Your listeners are probably have no idea any of these shows.
The Jetsons was so on cool. syndication when we were young.
So you watched. Great. Okay.
That's valid. I remember the crossover with the Flintstones. That blew my mind. I was
hilarious.
I was like, yes, this music. I love all that's happening right now.
Yeah. The Jetsons was also my favorite just because I wanted to live in a house that was fully electronic and made of machines and could do everything for you. I was always just fascinated by that kind of stuff. So, yes, but the Jetsons, I wanted to live in a futuristic space world. And fly around in a spaceship car and have my breakfast, made and delivered, and go through like that, moving the belt that would shower you, brush your teeth, put your clothes on, and then make you breakfast. I thought that was so fun.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. So we are starting to wind down.
Okay.
I gave you 3 questions. This is the time.
Oh,
I know it's okay.
We didn't
Don't
even get
feel
to
any
any
sort
of
of
the writing.
What do you mean?
Did we talk about writing?
Well, you kind of talked about writing.
Oh, okay, great.
But no. But if you want to, is there something specifically that you want to share about writing?
No.
We can do it.
Oh my God.
Okay.
No. I wasn't sure if we got to everything. Yeah.
You covered a lot. So I didn't need to ask specific questions because you were answering them in your storytelling.
Awesome. Fantastic.
Yeah. It's okay.
This is me trying to avoid the last 3 questions.
Oh, I understand.
Yeah.
No, which animated character would you say that you're most like?
Oh, right. Yes. So I'm going to go with, for that, well, I gotta just say Wren. My character that I voice on Craig of the Creek. And that is because she is just a firecracker of energy. And she can be a bit much, to the point of, making everyone else uncomfortable. But she is so creative, and she means well. She gets really passionate, and she means well. And sometimes she's kind of like in her own world and obsessed with what she's doing. And I feel like I can be that way as well, overwhelmed with what I am working on. By no means a science person at all. So that is not like me. I was terrible in science. But energy-wise, I would say Wren.
Okay. And now, using animated characters, cast your biopic.
Oh, God.
Right? So, but, you don't have to do all your siblings. You can do yourself, maybe one sibling, one parent, both parents, whoever. Or maybe you want to do friends instead of family. But let's do like you and like 2 to 3 other people.
Okay.
And they don't have to be in the same like show or anything like that. Just pulling people from anywhere.
Oh, right. Okay, sure. Okay, so let's see. And someone to play me as well?
Sure. Do you want Wren to play you?
Yeah, I guess. Okay, so Wren could play me. Well, no, actually, I would say one of probably Wren. Which one was the mixture of Wren and Stimpy? Like either or would play me.
To play you.
The psychotic, gross brain, mastermind brain. Okay. It's like a mixture of Wren and Wren. Oh, Wren and Wren? Weird.
Yeah.
So that's me. And then let's see. Who else? Characters. Oh, gosh. Let's see. Who else would play? Oh, no. Trying to think of my shows that I watched. Probably. Oh, I don't want that person. Everyone I'm thinking of, I'm like, okay, I would take Angelica to play like my sister from Rugrats.
Okay. Yeah.
Not because she's bossy, but just because she's like, has like older sister vibes, which my sister did have. Kind of like know-it-all behavior. Okay, then let's see. I would give myself, oh gosh, this is more difficult than I thought. Would
Is
I
there a
give myself
grandparent?
a baby? I would give myself.
Okay, yeah, that's a first. Give yourself, who would be your baby?
Who would be my baby? So cute. I would make little. No. Okay. Okay, I'll just I'll put Jessica from Cragen as my little sister. Oh, I'm supposed to be capturing my actual family, right?
Yeah, but what you're doing is also fine. Okay. There's a first time for everything. So
this will be a great mashup. Yes, and then my two friends, let's see, because you always have to have like two best friends, you know? Let's see.
Well, it's okay. I have another question that I might want you to think more about instead.
Okay.
So, but this one is
come back to you on this one.
Imagine you're stuck on a desert island, right? Not forever, just for a bit. What two characters would you prefer to have with you on this desert island?
Oh my gosh. Craig.
Okay.
Just because he is, able to come up with solutions for everything using creativity and all of that. So we could come up with fun things and then fun ways to get off of the day. Are we trying to get off or are we trying to stay?
No, eventually you'll get off, but it's just like in the meantime.
Oh, gotcha. Sure. And then who else? SpongeBob?
Okay, we'll take it. Craig and SpongeBob and Ashleigh on a desert island.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Sure,
well,
why not?
that concludes the episode, Ashleigh.
Cool.
Can you share with the listeners and viewers your social media, and if they want to learn more about you, where should they go? How should they do so?
Okay, sure. I don't really tweet that much, but you can follow me on Twitter. It's the @ Ashleigh Crystal. Very difficult for many people who think I made a typo.
Like me.
Yes. My Instagram is Ashleigh Crystal, ASHLEIGH Crystal. And I, post there somewhat often. And yeah, that's it. That's where I am on social. Thank you so much for having me. It was really fun, and I am so glad you reached out. And I am, I'm excited for you and all of your endeavors.
Thank you. So I'm going to stop. Once again, I'm your host, Monique. You can find me on all social media platforms at Simplyrobotix. Also, check out the website, Simplyrobotix.com. Remember, I do have a podcast workbook, and I do have some of the sheets can be downloaded separately. You can buy them in packages or as a bulk. Also, I am selling a couple different things on my website, and I do offer consultation services. All can be found at simplyrobotix.com/shop. And don't forget to check out the Patreon. Oh, I've also added a new tier. Let's just say you don't really care about all the other stuff. You just want to help support the podcast. There is now a $2 tier that will keep allowing me to make these episodes for you. So I just want to thank you all. My episodes lately, I'm seeing the growth. I'm seeing the growth in just like engagement and of course the views and all that sort of stuff. So I really, really appreciate it and looking forward to continuing to give you more of these kind of episodes. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.